0 to 60 can define a performance car, but it's the fastest 60 to 0 that's the aim of Terox brakes. From road cars to race cars, circuits, special stages, or the autostrada, nothing reduces speed like Terox brakes. Italy gave the world the art of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Terox has given drivers the art of stopping. For more information and to acquire your own masterpiece, visit terox.co.uk. Yes, it's me, Mark Stone, and this is the Backseat Driver Podcast. It's the fastest, it's the friendliest, and it's for all the family. The Gas Shocks 116 Trophy and 120 Coupe Cup are the fastest growing race series in the UK, taking in 6 one-hour races and 8 sprints at all the top circuits. Visit 116trophy.com to find out more and get yourself behind the wheel. From a pot of tea to TT motorbikes. From a classic English breakfast to a full serving of classic cars. Bridge House Tea Rooms is the Northwest premier classic car meeting location for cars, bikes, tractors and owners clubs. So no matter what your automotive appetite might be, visit Bridge House Farm Tea Rooms on their Facebook page or call John and Alicia on 07980 444 221 for show details and to reserve your own table and parking space. I'd like to welcome to the Backseat Driver radio show a co-driver, a legendary co-driver. If I don't say that, he'll probably get upset. He recently celebrated his 90th birthday, which means he was born in 1934. I was told by such as Don Barrow, a past guest, Ron Beecroft, Ian Grinrod, and various others, why have you not interviewed this man? So when I made the initial contact through a friend of mine, Chris Lee, another past guest, I was told, oh, you've decided to leave the best till last. And I suppose I have. Before I introduce him, I shall just read out some of his events. 13 RAC rallies, 9 Monte Carlos, 6 Tulips, 6 Coupe des Alpes, 5 Austrian Alpines, 4 Acropolis, 4 TAP, that's the Portugal rally, 3 Tour de Course, 2 Liège-Sophia-Liège, 2 East African Safari rallies, 1 Tour de France automobile, 1 Total Rally South Africa, 7 outright wins, 1 Alpine Cup, and he has sat alongside Timo Mäkinen, Renno Aaltonen, Seymour Lampinen, Tony Fall, Hannu Mikkola, John Sprindle, Gerard LaRue, Tony Pond, John Waddington, Brian Kulcheth, John Woolwork, Chris Slater, and has driven in cars or co-driven in cars Ford, BMW, Datsun, Peugeot, VW, Lancia, Porsche, Opel and Triumph. I can only be talking about one man, and that one man is Mike Wood. Mike, welcome to the Backseat Driver.
Thank you.
How did all this start? You sat here in your house surrounded by some phenomenal memorabilia from your events. But how did it all start? How did Mike Wood become the legend that he is?
I'm going to tell you, and this is interesting. My parents sent me away to public school in the Isle of Monk, in Williams College, at the end of the war.
Yeah.
At 1945.
Yeah.
The war had just finished in Europe. And I watched the first TT after the war in 1947.
Yeah.
And there hadn't been any racing, virtually any racing until then.
Yeah.
And my parents came across at half term. They always coincided half term with the senior TT, and we went to watch at the bend called Ballacrame. And the roads were cleared and we waited, and the event started in Ballacrame was about a third the way through the course, or a quarter, and you could hear the bikes coming in the distance eventually. And eventually the first bike came into sight, hurtled down this road toward us, leaned over, went up past Ballacrame Bend, corner, and that was it, because its speed, its noise, and its smell.
Yeah.
I later spoke with Sterling Moss, and he verified it. The same thing happened to him. It's just to do with speed, noise, and smell. And that was me hooked.
Yeah.
That was the start. I really wanted to razz round the Isle of Man on an Norton, but that never really happened. But that was me into motorsport.
Yeah. So where did it go from there? From watching it and wanting to, how did it come about? What led you actually to get in a car?
Obviously, everybody fancies themselves as a driver, and I did. And
Yeah.
I did my first night rally in December 1953 in my father's Mark I Ford Prefect.
Yeah. Did your dad know we were using his prefect?
Oh, yes. I don't think he was very happy about it, but
Yeah.
we certainly didn't do any damage to it, and I had 2 navigators. And I did 1 or 2 events in this Ford Prefect, and it all terminated in Derbyshire. I was doing a daylight event in Derbyshire, and my another navigator was pretty hopeless. Eventually, it was that bad. I said, "Look, you drive, and I'll navigate."
Yeah.
And I let him get in the driver's seat, and he went round 2 bends and ran into a car coming the opposite way. So that didn't my father's car any good, but it convinced me then that I was better on the maps
Yeah.
than I was behind the wheel. I wouldn't say I still enjoy driving, but I also enjoy navigating. And
I've always said it is an art form. You can either navigate and co-drive, or you can't.
scholastically, I wasn't very good at it. But one thing that obviously turned out, I was quite good on maps, and
Yeah.
I improved on the maps, and obviously became, I'm not trying to be big-headed, but
Yeah.
very good on maps, and I still love maps to this day.
Yeah.
I've sat now, but I'd rather work by a map.
Map.
And so it's reading a map, and I obviously became quite good at it. So
Yeah.
that was me as a navigator. Obviously graduated from that into special stages and reading pace notes, but
Yeah.
that's the later. Yeah.
In the early 50s, you would have progressed. How did you then start doing it, for want of a better term, as a living? Somebody had to have picked up on you. Because you were a member of you were a member of the Lancashire Automobile Club.
Oh yes, I've
Yeah.
been a member since 1953 to
Yeah.
do that event. Yes,
And a lot of-
I've been on the committee
Yeah.
since 1956, and
Yeah.
I've been so I deserve to be knighted for that.
So was it through the Lancs Auto Club that you carried on? Did you pick up on any drivers or co-drives from there? 'Cause
No, not really. What happened was, in going back to 1955, I'd started to make a bit of a name for myself. And international rallying in those days, British British navigators were very much in demand.
Right.
And I got asked to do the Tulip Rally in a works Ford Zephyr, not on the team, but driven by that time by the competition manager Ferodo. They'd lent him the car, and we did. That was my first international.
Yeah.
And I don't think we did very well. We finished in the 50s, but nevertheless they finished. That was one under my belt.
Yeah.
And then I did the 56 RAC rally with John Waddington, and we finished about 11th or something. And then I did the 58 Monte Carlo, didn't finish,
Yeah.
in a Works Crown TR38. So going on from there, I'm getting international events
Yeah.
under my belt.
Yeah.
And you because of that, you become a little bit in demand.
Yeah.
And then I started with BMC. I think it was about 1961. I did the Tulip Rally with a guy called Tommy Gold, who
Yeah.
had been a very good driver, and we won a Tulip. We didn't win our class, but I think we were about third. And the year after that, I did the same event with John Sprindle in a Sprite. Both events were in Sprites, and
Yeah.
did quite well then. But that was then. I was being backed by BMC. It wasn't costing me any money.
Right.
They were covering my expenses. I
Yeah.
didn't get any fees for it. But then I started in '63. I got the phone call from Stuart Turner asking me to do the season with Timo Mäkinen,
Yeah.
and he was just signed up with Timo. I finished only doing 2 events with Seymour. I did the Alpine Rally with him, and I did the RAC Rally with him. But that was a proper works drive, and I must have got paid to do the event.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And about 1965 or 65, we won an Alpine Cup with Tony Fall in a privately entered mini. But after that, we became full members of the team. So from 65 or 66 onwards, I was a member then of the BMC team.
Yeah.
And had to decide then. By then I wasn't in textiles anymore, but by then I was in the motor trade and I was a sales manager. But then I had to decide whether to chuck that in and go full time. And to go full time was right because they needed it to do every event they entered.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just doing the events. The time-consuming part of it was doing the reconnaissance for these events. And so I back to my job and went full time.
Yeah.
I know we were paid per event, and we were paid expenses, the vast expense of your expenses were £10 a day.
Yeah.
And out of that, you had to pay your hotel bills, your food, and everything else. But we still made a profit out of it.
Being funny back then, £10 was worth more than £10 is
Oh
now.
yes, we made a profit out of it, and it was a good incentive to stay in an event because you got your £10 a day whilst you were doing the rally, and that wasn't costing anything at the time.
So the last thing you wanted was to go out of the event because your expenses stopped.
Oh yeah, that was awful. If you broke down or you had a bit of a crash and you were out of the event, then it was costing you money. So from then I was in the wonderful BMC team.
Yeah.
And they stopped. They closed the department down at the end of '68.
Yeah.
With the final event was the London Sydney Marathon.
Because at the time you were in Mini Coopers, you'd be in Austin Healey's. The legendary BMC cars. The legendary BMC cars.
When I started in '63, they hadn't started using the Mini then.
Yeah.
It was Healey's. And then we started with the Minis, and of course Paddy won the '64 Monte Carlo Rally in the Mini. And so it was the Minis after that, and it was the 1275 Coupe S. And in those mid-60s, the 1275 Mini Coupe S was the car to beat.
Yeah.
And it was only at the end of '68, by then it had run its course, and Ford had come along with the twin cab Escort, and Renault had come with their Alpine, so the Mini had finished then.
Yeah.
But in the mid-60s, it was unbeatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was mostly in the Mini, but I did start with the Healey.
Yeah. The one thing is, you look at the Mini now with the original Mini Coopers, they're small, they're very manoeuvrable. It was Paddy and the others who showed people how they could be driven. What was it like to spend so much time in a tiny little car like that?
You have to think in those days, it was small, but every other car was small. I mean, if you look at a Mini on the road nowadays, it looks minute.
Yes.
But if you looked at it in the '60s, it was just a Mini, and it was small, but every other car was small, so it didn't seem all that small, and you never thought about it at the time. But when I see a Mini on the road now, I can't believe I sat in for all those miles. Yeah.
Now, the one thing was, Stuart Turner, back in the early '60s, was the man who introduced known as the Bible, but the pace notes, because until then, there weren't pace notes, not as we know them now. You just read maps, and a lot of the rallies you drove blind, didn't you? You just set off. You had you had your route as to where you were going, and off you went.
That's exactly it. And if we go back to one of my biggest successes was in '65. Stuart asked me if I would go and sit with Tony Fall, who was a car salesman with Appleyard in Leeds. And he had a 1275 Mini Cooper S as his employment car, and he did some events in it. And Stuart must have persuaded Appleyards to let him for them to let him have the car for the Alpine.
Yeah.
And he asked me to go with him.
Yeah.
So there was absolutely no reconnaissance for that. We did it blind. And
Yeah.
to be honest, Tony had never driven on the right-hand side of the road. And the Alpine was a wonderful event. And what you strive to do was to win an Alpine Cup.
Yeah.
And to win an Alpine Cup meant a clean sheet. You hadn't to lose time anywhere.
Yeah.
They did have a classification because they had speed hill climb. They weren't special stages.
Yeah.
They were hill climbs, and we knew we wouldn't be much good on that. But our effort was to try and win an Alpine Cup, and this was virtually unheard of as a private owner.
Yeah.
Ironically, the year before, 65, this was in 65, in 64, local driver John Wadsworth with local co-driver Alan Cook took a privately owned Mini, and they won an Alpine Cup.
Yeah.
I did the event in a Healy with Sir Peter Moon. We finished the event, but we were nowhere near winning an Alpine Cup. So I was a bit jealous that they'd won an Alpine Cup. So when I got with Tony, I knew he was a good driver. I said, look, we're after a cup. We're not after winning the event.
Yeah.
The speed, we had to do it within a certain percentage. I said, but we did. And long story short, in 65, there were eight Alpine Cups.
Yeah.
And we won one of the Alpine Cups.
Well done.
So that was and give you that, if you won 3 Alpine Cups in a row,
Yeah.
you got a Gold Cup. There are 3 Gold Cup winners. One is Ian Appleyard
Yeah.
in the Jaguar.
Yes.
The other is Sterling Moss,
Yes.
and the third, much later on, was a French driver. I've forgotten his name, and he won that. So only 3 gold
Alpine Cups.
Yeah.
And the one thing I've always read about and heard about is the timing was incredibly tight on them, wasn't it?
What it was, there were no special stages then, and this was very interesting for a co-driver. They had what they call was selectives, and you had to clean these selectives, and every selective was set at 60 kph.
Yeah.
That was around about 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And they weren't just over mountains, they were on little narrow roads like you get in Wales,
Yeah.
which Mini was ideal on. But you had to clean every one of those
Yeah.
in the whole of the event
Yeah.
to get your Alpine Cup.
Yeah.
And it was set at it. But then the road sections, after the selectives, to get you to the next selective, they were set at 50 kph. So it was a race the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, because as a co-driver, when you set off on a selective, you knew it was 1 kilometre per minute.
Yeah.
So you had your trip running in front of you
Yeah.
and your stopwatch.
Yeah.
And all you had to do was to keep the kilometres ahead of the stopwatch.
As your career progressed, I said Stuart Turner was BMC.
Yes.
And then, after BMC was closed down, the competition department, he became Ford. Did you follow Stuart, or where did your career go after the BMC days, the Minis and everything else?
Going back to Stuart, let's go back to the 50s when I was doing grassroots rallying.
Yeah.
And doing very well with my driver then, John Waddington. The person to beat as a navigator was one Stuart Turner.
Oh.
He was a wonderful British navigator.
Yeah.
They were just as good as each other.
Yeah.
I think I had fractionally the better driver.
Yeah.
So we did we won more events. So that's how we started.
Yeah.
And then Stuart was made. I was, when I went to BMC originally, it was Marcus Chambers was the team manager then. And then he left and Stuart Turner took over. And it was him that gave him the chance. But Stuart doesn't do any favours.
I've read and heard, and of course I've been courtesy of you many years ago and met him. He was quite a hard taskmaster, was Stuart.
Very hard, but I knew him from the old days. So,
Yeah.
And in fact, we were good friends. In fact, he is my daughter's godfather.
Oh.
So we were friends, but that didn't matter because I can tell you when he went to Ford, he fired me.
Oh.
I can tell you about what happened was at the end of '68, BMC had stopped rallying.
Yeah.
And Stuart Turner had left BMC before then. He'd gone to Castrol first, and then he was employed. He was taken on by Ford as the team manager
Yeah.
of Ford. At the end of '68, because I was out of a job, I got offered the position of co-driver to Hanno Mikkola.
Yeah.
And they signed down Hanno in the beginning of '69, and I was to be Hanno's co-driver,
Yeah.
sat with him. And we did all the events, quite a lot of events in '69, and failed to finish every one of them, except one, through either breakage or crashes. But the only one we finished was the Austrian Alpine in '69. And we won that.
Yeah.
So we only finished one and we won it. But what happened at the end of '69, I got called down to the competition department and Stuart was there. He said, "I'm very sorry, Mike, we're going to have to let you go." Ovi Anderson,
Yeah.
who was another one of the works drivers, and Anderson is going as well because I'm signing up to drive with us Timo Mäkinen.
Yeah.
Now, Timo was always one of Stuart's favourites anyway, but he
Yeah.
was a brilliant driver. And he said, "I'm going to put Gunnar Palm
Yeah.
with Mikkola instead of," I forgot, I think it was Henry Liddon was going with Timo. So
Yeah.
both Ovi Anderson and I were released by Ford, so we were out of the job. So my works Ford just lasted 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did it progress from there?
That was that, and then in 1970 I started to look for events, and I went back with Tony Fall, and we finished up driving for various works teams right till the end of 1973.
Yeah.
But I also drove, in 1970 I did the 1970 RAC rally with Gerard Larousse,
Oh, yeah.
who had been a Renault works driver. But Gerard eventually went on to run his own Formula One team.
Yeah, I was going to say the name more associated with F1.
Yes, with Formula One, but he was a lovely guy, and I knew him quite well. And I got asked to do the 1970 RAC rally with Gerard in a works Porsche. What it was, there was no World Championship then, but there was a European Championship for manufacturers. And Porsche needed a good result on the RAC rally to secure that championship. So they put me with Gerard.
Yeah.
And they entered another works car as well. Long story short, I think we finished 6th overall and secured then the European Championship.
Yeah.
So I did the RAC rally. I did various other things. Then we went back with Tony Fall and we got various works drives with Datsun in the 240Z.
Yeah.
I did the Safari rally in a 180B and finished 4th in 1973. We drove to BMW and won the category on the Tour de France automobile. I won the Welsh in the 240Z with Tony and drove with Peugeot, VW, Lancia. So, yes, until I packed it in at the end of 1973.
That is a very, shall we say, lightweight version of your career. There's the famous one many did when you started of the Yorkshire Rally that you suddenly discovered you'd won by being in a pub at the end of it because you were the only one to go up Sutton Bank.
No, it wasn't the only one to go up Sutton Bank. I'm sure quite a few got up Sutton Bank, but there was other difficult bits, and because it was so long and because it was almost all snow, people just run out of time, but we kept going and managed to make the control, not necessarily on time, but we finished up, I think, being the only car that went round and got every control within a total mileage of about 500 miles.
Yeah. Well, what were these big rallies like to drive? Because you look at the modern rallying, there's no night time, there's no nothing. These were serious events. It's like you were saying the Liège, Sofia Liège, and then was it the Liège, Rome Liège?
It started off as the Liège, Rome Liège, and became the Spa Sofia Liège, and that was, honestly, and I include the Safari Rally in this, the hardest event there was, because it was 3,500 miles long, 4 days and 4 nights. You started in Belgium at Spa. The halfway distance was Sofia, 1 hour's rest.
Yeah.
And that's all we got in 3,500 miles. So he did 4 days and 4 nights.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, everybody, you tell people this, how did you do it? How did you stay awake? Because it was so difficult and the sections were so tight, particularly in Yugoslavia and Bulgaria, all you were concerned about was losing as little time as possible.
Yeah.
So timed in eventually you did get tired because you had to drive all the way back up the Autobahn eventually up to Belgium. But we weren't tired. It was adrenaline just took over. And that 64, the last time they ran that was in 64, and it was the hardest event they did. BMC entered 3 Healey's in the event, 3 MGBs, and our Mini, and a Mini. And I was in the Mini, and we weren't expected to finish it because no Mini had ever finished the event, but it was just entered as a last-minute thing. There were no spares for or anything. And at the end of the piece, only 2 BMC entered cars finished the event. One was the winner, Raoul Altonen and Tony Ambrose in a Healey 3000.
Yeah.
We were the only other one. We were next to last, 20th out of 21. But nevertheless, we went down in history at that moment as being the only Mini to ever finish that arduous event.
Yeah. You were saying that because you weren't expected to finish, there were no spares, no nothing for you.
What happened was that I'd done the event the year before in a Works Healey with a very good driver, Logan Morrison, who was a BMC driver at that time.
Yeah.
And we broke down as far away as possible, somewhere near Dubrovnik. And so I didn't finish that event, and I wasn't down in the team to do the 64 event.
Yeah.
But then we got a phone call about a month before, maybe even less, from Stuart Turner, the team manager, saying as an afterthought, they thought they would put a Mini in. So there were 3 Healeys and 3 MGBs and the Mini. And he said, I'm putting the Mini in, and you've got your local driver, John Wadsworth, who'd helped BMC in the past. We're putting you in a Mini. He said, because our efforts with the other 6 cars, there won't be any spares for you. He said, we'll have the service points, of course you get the use of that, you'll get fuel, and we'll take some tyres for you. But if you've got a mechanical problem, that's it.
Yeah.
You'll be out of the event because we won't have any spares for you. A funny thing here is that on the very last night of the event, we did all the high Italian passes, the Stelvio, the Garvi, Vivione, Croce Domine. And the last of those passes was the Stelvio.
Yeah.
We didn't come up the 48 hairpins. We came up the other side. I had to go down it. And by the time we got there, it was daylight. But from almost coming out of Yugoslavia, we'd got the dreaded Mini Achilles heel, the clicking of a drive shaft.
Yeah.
So we knew that this would be terminal at some point. But we just had to carry on. We knew they wouldn't have any spares.
Yeah.
And we came down the Stelvio, which was a lot better because you weren't putting any stress on it. And there was a service point at the bottom. And Stuart Turner was there, I think. There were 2 cars there. And they were there waiting for us. And they talked to them. And I said, I think we've had it. I said, the drive shaft the coupling is going. And you have no spares. And one of the mechanics, a guy called Pete Bartram, I think he was called, he said, Mike, he said, when I left the competition department to do this event, just as an afterthought, he said, and I slung 2 couplings in my spares.
Yeah.
I've got one. He said, what we'll do, he said, you leave here, we'll follow the route, and eventually if you stop, we'll catch you up and we'll settle it.
Yeah.
And by the time we got into Italy, the high average speeds had dropped. And eventually we were in Germany, about to get on the Autobahn at Ulm, and the drive shaft went.
Yeah.
We pulled onto a piece of spare ground. The service crew wasn't behind us then. And we were wondering what to do. And I said, Tony, I'll tell you what we'll do. When they come, it didn't matter. I said, we'll put the car on its side.
Yeah.
and they can work on it. And that's the first time they ever did that, and they did it many times after that. And by the time they'd arrived, we come with this idea, and we got some help, and we pushed it on its side, trained the drive shaft, and that got us to the end.
Mike Wood, we've now come to the end of part 1 of Mike Wood. So thanks very much, and we shall be returning with part 2. The Backseat Driver podcast is brought to you in association with Tim Nash and the Lombard Rally Festival, the UK's premier classic rally demonstrations. From the awesome Group B cars to cars from the golden era of rallying, go to the Lombard Rally Bath social media for dates and venues. Rarely beaten on price, never beaten on service. Whether it's cars, bikes or commercials, Hodder Tyres are the best in the business. And when it comes to tyre expertise and advice to supplying the correct tyres for your vehicle's specific requirements, nobody comes close to David Lakin and the Hodder Tyres team. So give them a call on 01200 613 192 or visit the website at hoddertyres.co.uk.